Right, good morning friends. I'm delighted to welcome you to the 32nd Annual General Meeting of North West Kent. On behalf of the Board and the Trustees, I thank you for joining us today. Your presence here is a testimony to your support and commitment to our charity. I would particularly like to thank the Worshipful Mayor of Swanley, Leslie Dyball, the Worshipful Mayor of Gresham, Peter Scollard, Councillor Avatar, and Deputy Mayor Rosanna Currans and Councillor Currans, and also her escort Karina, who have all been here today, taking time out of their diaries, which I know have been immensely busy in view of the passing of the Queen and the new King. So thank you for your commitment and support to us today. Yeah. Our AGM has a dual role. It functions both as a business meeting and also, more importantly, to look at our previous 12 months and to celebrate the work of our brilliant staff and volunteers, many who are here today. I'm briefly going to take you through the agenda, and we will try and get through the formalities as quickly as possible, because I know the majority of people are here and to hear about Home Start and hear from the families. The purpose of the agenda, or the purpose of the AGM, is to approve the minutes of the annual general meeting held on the 17th of September 2021, to receive and adopt the accounts for the financial year which ended 31st of March 2022, to hear the charity's activities over the past year since the last AGM, and to appoint the trustees of the board going forward for the next year for Home Start. Home Start has been described as a movement of people in the community who stand alongside families and the challenges they face. Our local network of 65 volunteers and expert staff led support is there to help families with young children through their challenging times. We are there for parents when they need us most. At the heart of Home Start's work is the visiting volunteer support, dedicated volunteers working alongside parents in their own homes to help them cope with the stresses and strains of life and to empower parents so they have the skills and the strength they need to nurture their families. Starting in the home, our approach is individual with the families we are helping. We are compassionate and free of judgment. We offer confidential help and expert support. Our work offers a vital lifeline to parents and helps to give children a possible start in life, because childhood cannot wait. This year has seen us continue to emerge from the pandemic. We started again with face-to-face visits to families, resumed groups and board meetings, which will be expanded on in the staff report. We have seen a 15% increase in referrals, with many families feeling very nervous about the current economic situation. We have taken on a new project worker to cover the Swanley area and increased group support in Gravesend. We are grateful to the Worshipful Mayor of Swanley, as we are a chosen charity this year, and also to the Worshipful Mayor of Gresham, as we are one of his 3 chosen charities this year. Funding continues to be a challenge, particularly core costs. We are 4 years into a 5-year National Lottery grant, but currently running at a deficit, so funding is a priority over next year to enable Home Start to continue. Volunteer recruitment is also a priority, as the increase in referrals, we need to be able to support the families. Trish Burley, who is here today, retired from the board in February. Trish had been the chair for many years, and her knowledge and experience have been invaluable to Home Start, for which we are truly grateful. Trish continues to support Home Start North West Kent as a volunteer. Jane Gillam also stepped down as trustee and treasurer, and Jennifer Morris also retired from the board. I will now pass you over to Paula to read the apologies for today's meeting.
Laura Trott, Swanley MP, Councillor Gareth Johnson, Dartford MP, Councillor Paul Cutter, Dartford Mayor, Jonathan Hawkes, Dartford Vice Chair, Councillor Jeremy Kite, Dartford Borough Council Lead, Councillor Tom Madison, Paul Coster, Head of Dartford Borough Council Housing, Audrey Williams, Porchlight, Was Gabriel, Oasis, Tracy Sands, Leeds, Anita Weaver, Early Help, Jackie Hyland, Domestic Abuse, Jenny from Waterside, Emily Hayes, Senior Social Worker, Justin Bateman, CEO of Mind, and Annette Daniels, Public Health, plus 20 post-art volunteers. And now on to the minutes. Minutes have been read and distributed to the board and key stakeholders. Are there any corrections to the minutes? No? Please could I have a motion to approve the minutes? And could I second that, please? Thank you. Thank you. And I'll now hand you over to Ken Deeman to our accounts.
Thank you. There were quite a few councillors read out there who gave their apologies for today, but it's because of what's happened with Parson's Black Queen and the King, they've been called back into Parliament. So yeah, they're just very busy guys. I'm going to come around because I need to see the screen as well as just talk about what we're going to go through. So normally, so I'm Ken Deemer, I'm our treasurer. I've been treasurer of Home Start for almost 2 years now, coming up in November. Normally it would be our accountants who would stand up here and give a brief overview of the finances for last year. I know they're quite boring, so I'm going to keep it as brief as possible. Normally our accounts would be handed out at the AGM. They go into 13 pages, and so it's an awful waste of paper, time and money to do that. So what we've done this year, we've published them on our website, and we sent a link out to our key stakeholders for them to review the accounts. They come back from our accountants, Blue Rocket Accounting in Dartford, with no qualifications. They're happy with what's been produced and the controls and the finances that we have in place. So I'm just going to give a very brief overview of what those accounts look like, and hopefully we can approve them for me. So income this year to March 2022 was £142,000 compared to last year at £130,000. This was by far our best year ever. And when you think that's coming directly after a pandemic, it was an exceptional year for us. I think it's also down to the amount of work that goes in by the staff to generate that income, and I will put a list up of our benefactors and go through those a little bit later on. So income was a great year. For our expenditure, 2022 saw our expenditure returning back to normal levels following from the pandemic. Probably the highest increase we had was in staff wages. Clearly we got to keep our wages in line with inflation, but equally with the additional income that came in, some of our staff, we was able to move them back from being part-time to full-time to sort of keep up with the demand that's now put upon us as a charity. And then on the next page, so at the end of that, so income was up, great, our cost was equally matched, but we still made a surplus at the end of the year of £15,000. Now as a charity, we're not here to bank cash, we're here to use that cash on the families and the communities that we support. But the majority of this money came in Q4, so we're carrying that money over into this year and we're spending that money on certain projects that are going ahead. I know that we've had coach trips to Kent Life, where else did we go to? Godstone Farm, we've had Easter parties. So yeah, it's really been spent on the families where it should be spent. From our benefactors, I'm not going to run through them all, but this is a list of our main benefactors, and as you can see from the top, I don't know if Jamie's here. I know Jamie. Hi Jamie. We've communicated via email, but not yet face to face. But the National Lottery is our biggest benefactor. This is part of a five-year grant. We're 3 years into that grant, and the percentage I've shown here at 69% is when we received this grant 3 years ago, the National Lottery made up almost 95% of our income. So all our golden eggs were in one basket. And Jane, I can't thank you enough for the support. Jane is our regional funding manager, and I know that she holds North West Kent quite close to her heart, so we really appreciate that. But since then, we've been working hard to diversify that income so that we can have different channels of income coming in, so that if there was a funding crisis, we're not reliant on one sole benefactor to keep the lights on for Homestart North West Kent. So, as I said, we've reduced that down to 69%. We've got more work to do. We want to try and reduce that down to 50%. But Jane, we need your support going forward, and I know that from here. So, our next larger contribution was from Kent Community Foundation. That was for, they recognised that mental health and wellbeing was key following the pandemic. So that's a 3-year grant. It does reduce in year 2 and year 3. But Debbie, our scheme manager, is also a trained counsellor, and she's giving one-to-one support to those families that need that help. Countryside Properties, this is the first year for them. They gave us a donation from their community fund. Is Sue Saunders here? Hi Sue, we'll speak afterwards. Thank you very much. Do pass on our gratitude to your colleagues. Again, that was a huge donation and very appreciated, because we've used that money this year to employ a new member of staff, a coordinator, who's now developing our Swanley area. So we cover Gray's End, Dartford and now Swanley. We've always covered Swanley, but we've only ever really had a toe in the water. This now enables us to really develop Swanley as an area of support for us. Kent Community Council, the Reconnect grant, that came in Q4, just before March. And again, the Reconnect grant was about reconnecting families with other families and their communities. And it was this money that we spent on the trips for families out to Godstone Park and Kent Life. And then there was various other things that go on. The cooking club is a great way of getting families and children together to cook. And our volunteers run that for us. They supported greatly by Dartford Borough Council. And then there's various other donations that have come through. I will mention Jackie Wingrove, because Jackie was a long-term volunteer for our charity, and she passed away last year. And the request was that rather than people give flowers, that they make a donation. And those donations came in at £1,700, which was fantastic. So yeah, great to receive, and it was in our hearts. And just down here, I just wanted, where I've sort of grouped quite a few people together, which is local and corporate donations. Some background around that really relates to John Lewis. They've had a national campaign with Homestar, so there's some money from them. The co-op supports us every year as well, which is great. And then there's many individual donations that fall into that pot. And there's one lady I would like to give thanks to, and that's Margaret Grant. I think Margaret's here today. Thank you, Margaret. Margaret donates every month into our charity, and it doesn't matter how large, how small any donation is, it all goes to work and support our families. So as I say, overall, a fantastic year. We're working hard to try and diversify this even further, and we're looking at employing a funding consultant this year to help us achieve more grants outside of the National Lottery. As I say, I'm sure Jane's music to your ears to hear that we're trying to do that. So yeah, so great year. Thank you to everyone. Really appreciate it. Without you guys, it just wouldn't happen. So for us, accounts-wise, we're in a healthy position. We've got 18 months worth of funding left with the current bid with National Lottery. We'll be reapplying for that within the next 12 months. This is a 3-year deal, as I mentioned. But with that said, so we know we're secure for the next 18 months. Reserve-wise, we've got reserves set aside, and it means if we did have a funding crisis, we can keep the lights on for about 9 months. So we've got 9 months of operational costs left. Now, for some of you may hear, when I first heard that, I got involved in charity, I was like, what? That can't be right. Surely we've got 2 or 3 years. But no, that's quite normal for charities. If you have more than 12 months worth of reserves, it can block you going for additional grants. Because charities tend to work very much year to year, hand to mouth. And the grants that are issued to those that need it most. So purposely, like I say, when we had a £15,000 surplus, we're spending it. It's not there to be banked, it's there to be spent on the people that need it most. But having said that, we're in a great position. We've got a strong trustee board, we've got strong experienced staff, and we've got 65 fantastic volunteers. So, with that said, all I need to do is to put forward the accounts for approval. So I would like a proposer for the accounts, please. Yes, thank you. I don't know the lady's name, so Sarah. And can I have a second? Thank you. Again, my Felicity. We have met Felicity, I'm sorry. Great, and then lastly for me, all I need to do is to reappoint the auditor or the accountant. We've used Blue Rocket Accounting based in Dartford for many, many years. They know our systems, they know the charity very well. We as the board have no hesitation in recommending them for approval. So I need an approver for our accountants. Thank you, this lady here. Rebecca. Yeah, I'm never going to be good with names. Need someone to second, please. Teresa, my wife. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. I will hand over to Debbie, who's going to give you an update on the activities for this year.
Some of this, okay, I've said some of this, but I'll just say here what I have written down anyway. So since our last AGM, Homestart North West Kent has, as Ken said, relinked staff, volunteers and families post-COVID. Thanks in part to, as mentioned, KCC Reconnect grant, which enabled peer support via various social events and outings for both our volunteers and particularly our families. Our principal funder, Lottery, expressed understanding of pandemic challenges regarding our 5-year plans, including some additional funding actually when COVID was first year. But we are now successfully back on track with all project targets, our lottery project targets. Including a benefits clinic, cookery classes that have been mentioned, autistic spectrum and postnatal depression support groups. Those are in addition to our established groups, which are multiple births, special needs and drop-in groups. And staff domestic abuse facilitation training to enable us to train volunteers. So all those things have taken place, even though they took place at different times than we planned originally. Number of families referred for Homestart support following lockdown, they doubled in numbers after lockdown. So the numbers that were reported on last year were less than we would normally have. I think it's 97 actually, and 150 is sort of more normal for us a year. But we had 190 after lockdown. It's settling more now, a study exploring Kent family needs following pandemic identified mental health as an escalating priority, which we would agree with, on which we've been able to increase focus thanks to, as Ken mentioned, our 3-year community fund grant. Community foundation, yeah. In addition, parental isolation rose nationally from 38% to 55%. And then now, with financial worries also, more recently, added the current cost of living crisis. As Ken said, 65 Homestart volunteers, trained volunteers home visit families in North West Kent weekly. Many of them have remained with our scheme for some years. However, recruitment is our principal aim at present. Due to numbers, the last 2 courses we actually had half the number we would expect training on courses, and we know that part of that reason, if not the whole reason, is that people are feeling they need paid employment and they can't necessarily come forward as volunteers. So that is our principal aim. And if anybody here, I think I'll put it down here somewhere, the next course starts Wednesday the 5th of October. If anybody here knows of somebody they think might be interested, or that they wouldn't mind taking a poster. There are some on the signing in sheet for you to perhaps take with you if somebody comes to mind that might want to join us. Founder Margaret Harrison, Homestart founder, described Homestart as ordinary people with extraordinary ability to contribute in a simple way. And I think it's always been important to our scheme to stay traditional for Homestart. Some people, perhaps for funding reasons, some schemes, or perhaps not necessarily having the number of volunteers needed, they've moved slightly, but we are a traditional Homestart scheme. And consistently, healthy volunteer numbers, as I say there, have enabled our charity to operate in that traditional way, which is so effective. I mean, that's the reason we know it works so well. It's particularly the matching of people. It's us knowing our volunteers well enough, and we do over 3 months training, and then home visiting every family when they're referred, to match people. That's what makes it work. And the fact that most courses include parents who received our support previously. I don't mean all of them, I mean most courses have at least one perhaps who had received Homestart support in the past. Proves that everyone grows with Homestart. So, heartfelt thanks go to all our volunteers first, of course, including those on our Board of Trustees, and those who provide grant funding to enable our continuation. And they've been mentioned, but I'm going to list Lottery, Kent Community Foundation, Countryside Properties, Dartford, Swanley and Goshen Mayors, local councillors, where sometimes we have individual councillors who come forward for funding, John Lewis, Blue Water, who we've heard again this week are going to be helping families again this Christmas, so that's really good news. Dartford Lions, Swanley Rugby Club, Dartford Healthy Living Centre and several local churches. Also our photographer today, Heidi, volunteer Heidi, she spends much time spreading the Homestart word via our website and on social media, which has been a huge bonus to Homestart. So thank you, Heidi. Health Visitor Diane and daughter Natasha, I'm not sure if I've seen them yet, they're not here yet, okay, we think they are coming, who help facilitate our weekly ASD group, the group which is our newest group really, which is really going particularly well, I'd say, for parents whose child has a diagnosis for, on the autistic spectrum disorder or is on a pathway to. And I think it's the only group we know of. In fact, we have families driving up from out of county to come to that group. So we're so pleased that was one of our targets from Lottery, and we're so pleased we've got that going. And those who help with training newly recruited volunteers. There's quite a few agencies locally come along and help us offer that training in the first place. All our volunteers do 40-hour training, spread over 10 weeks. So that's children's centres, health visiting teams, Mind, for mental health aids, Beams, about special needs, Virtual Schools Kent, they talk about parent-child attachment, Gravesend social work team, who do the child protection training, Oasis, domestic abuse, and Change, Grow, Live, addiction service. So that will show us, that tells you some of the subjects that we cover, our volunteers cover before they're supporting families. So thank you very much.
Debbie, just while you're up, could you do the election of the board?
Yes. We have 7 returning trustees at present. So they are Pamela Gill and Ken Deal are here, Jonathan Hawkes, who couldn't be here today, Rosanna, who is here, Rosanna Collins, Dawn Funge, who is here, Tina James, who couldn't be here, and Pamela Jones-McGill, who is here. So I wonder if somebody could propose and second those 7 trustees.
Somebody for second?
And again, as was mentioned, if you know anyone for volunteering, but if you know anyone who would like to be a trustee, we've reduced our trustee board to 7, but really has scope to be maybe 9 or 10. We are looking for younger members as well to join as a trustee. So if you know of anyone who may fit the bill, do send them our way.
Right. Rosie, would you like to say a little bit about Katie?
Sorry. I talk all the time, but I hate when I've got one in front of me. I never stop talking, but I don't like having it. What I think everybody would like to hear, and I think it's a very important
My name's
part.
Katie, and
Sorry.
That's all right. Is the work that our volunteers do with our families and what our families get out of being volunteers and, well, not the families being volunteers, but for them to let you all know what a big difference it makes to their life. So first of all, could I ask Rebecca to come up and talk? Rebecca, unfortunately, is leaving us. But she wants to say a few words about Home Start and what it's meant to her. Oh, you want to go there?
Sorry.
Thank you very much, Rosie. There are many ways to come into Home Start. I was asked to come and help at a pamper day for the volunteers. They had taster sessions of different therapies to thank them for all the work they had done for Home Start. I walked into a school in Gravesend with my therapy bed and pillow. The building was very sad and warm, but it felt amazing. Warm and friendly. Debbie and her wonderful team and all the volunteers who I met that day. I decided that I really wanted to be a part of this and I needed to look into it. So a few months later, when my two sons left to go to university, I had spare time on my hands, which is otherwise known as the empty nest syndrome. I could do the Home Start course then for 10 weeks, and you just get together for a few hours each week over 10 weeks. It's a fascinating course and you learn a great deal. And it gave me the chance to pick up new skills, and I ended up doing 2 or 3 years on the Board of Trustees, finishing up as Vice Chair. So that was a huge surprise to me, that I could do that. Because you gain a lot of confidence with Home Start. It helps the families to gain a lot of confidence, but it also helps all the volunteers to experience things which they wouldn't normally do. These are hopeless glasses, I'm sorry, I have to keep moving them up and down. I have been with Home Start, in fact, for 15 years, and I have loved it. I have met and worked with many mums, and they're all amazing women. I tell them all that they can only do their best, and it has to be enough, as they can do no more. No one could do any better in their shoes, as they are coping well in very difficult and challenging situations. COVID caused real problems, as we couldn't go into their homes. I stood on the doorstep with bags of food, but it's not the same as a hug and a chat. It was very, very challenging for the families, but also for us because we couldn't do our job. There have been many tears and much laughter. The volunteers meet up twice a year for lunch at Christmas and in the summer. And I've hosted some of these events in the summer, myself in Higham, in our garden. One of the best parts of Home Start is the food, as you will see here today. The fact that it is such a diverse, multicultural group of volunteers means that we get the most wonderful food when we ever have a bring and share meal. I have kept in touch with my very first family. The 2 children of the family have achieved so much, and Mum has done a brilliant job taking care of them. I stayed with her for a year. I went to toddler groups with her, and I gave her confidence. And I fell in love with her daughter, which is always happening with me and the Home Start families. All the cuddling that you get to do with the tiny ones is wonderful. One mum needed to do a mental health course, and I went with her into the same building and I looked after her child while she completed the course. And she didn't actually need me for a whole year, but when I left, she had gained confidence, and then she went on to have another child, and that was a very different experience for her, much better. Many years ago, I gave a talk to Home Start about how to look after yourself while you help and support others. Because when you stand by their door and you knock, you have to put your own stuff to one side. The family may be tired or stressed, and you are there to offer help and support where you can. Sometimes though, we do need to take time out. I left Home Start for about 3 years to look after Mum and Dad when their health was failing, and I was needed at home. But because Home Start is so flexible, I could come back and help another 3 families. I became very good friends with some of my families. One mum asked if I would be godmother to her daughter, which was an absolute joy. She is now 12 and we constantly keep in touch and see each other. I would very much like to thank Debbie and her wonderful team who've helped and supported me so much, especially Paula over the last years, who's been my own actual supervisor. When I went to help out on that pamper day, that was the best thing that I ever did. My present family will be my last. My husband retired in May and things have changed, but I have got very attached to my present family, and I cannot walk away. So I will continue to help them, and it's been an absolute joy to be in Home Start for the last 15 years. Thank you.
Volunteer Angela and her family Louise, who she's been working with for the past year. So Louise is a mum of 7 children.
Hello everybody, I'm Angela, this is Louise, this is my first year at Home Start. Louise, yes, has got 7 children and came from a travelling family and was left on her own for 7. And travelling families aren't really allowed to move on, so they are on their own. So we've had a lot of sort of busy times this year trying to help Louise adjust to life on her own with the 7 children. As you can see, he's the youngest. And the first one has just started secondary school, the eldest one. So they're all doing really well. Louise is amazing, she does really well. And perhaps you can say to the people how you think it's helped you.
Thank you for that. So yes, I do have 7 kids. My oldest is staying in Stone Lodge. Home Start has helped me come out of my shell a hell of a lot since my break-up from 15 years of being with their dad. Home Start has helped us as a family do more, like known places I didn't know was around in Dartford, like going to collect conkers and things like that. And I'm a person of doing things on my own and my own way of cleaning. So for her to come there and actually have someone to talk to was easier than trying to hold it all in and put on a brave face for me. because that's one thing I needed. Someone just to actually sort of turn to family and talking to my mum. And mum going, you'll be alright, you'll get back with him. No, I don't want him, you know? I just wanted to have someone else that isn't in my situation but could understand me as a person to actually go, I don't want a man, I want to just take my children and do it for them, because it's not fair on them what I did go through. And being as brave as I am now, I can try and help someone else who's in my shoes that needs the guidance to go forward, I think. Thank you, Rosie.
You said before, Louise, yes, that with her travel background, most people come in the back door, but Angela is allowed in the front door. And that's a big thing. Yeah. So, yeah, that's really good. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
That's okay. Terry Ann and Gary. Alice is very nervous. Sorry, Terry Ann.
Yeah, I would rather just talk.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I started with Home Start just over a year ago. I have 2 children myself, and I split with their dad around 3 or 4 years ago. I've struggled with my own mental health through the years, like depression, anxiety and stuff. And when I heard about Home Start, and I knew that there was a place that I could go and help another mum that might be struggling with the experience that I'd had. I've also had a counselling qualification, so I've had a bit of experience in helping people. When I met Alice, in the beginning, you know, things wasn't as clear as what they are now. We only used to see each other less than what we do now, but now we're going to be friends for life. Like, we're amazing friends. We speak on the phone every day. She's also there for me a lot, which, you know, it works both ways. After knowing somebody for a year, you can sometimes tell them things and they can understand where you're coming from. We are the same age. We've had similar experiences. But yeah, I feel like I've been somebody that she can come to when she can't go to anyone else, and I think that's been the most important thing. If she feels like she can't tell somebody else, she can come to me and I can be her person. And yeah, I think she feels the same. Yeah. But yeah.
Do you want my counsel?
No. Yeah, okay. So, I don't know where to start really. Basically, obviously Rosie come into, I met Rosie first, and she said that she was amazing. I was the first person to come in and made me feel so welcome. Like, when she came into my home, she was just so, it was just comfortable, like talking to somebody that wanted to be a part of helping my family, and it's like better than anyone else that's come into my family. Like, I've had everybody else involved as well, like social service and everyone like that, and they've always made me feel inferior and upset about what I've gone through. Whereas this Home Start has never made me feel, they've only just given me confidence and made me feel better about my situation and how I cope and what I get through. But there's one thing that stuck with me as well, Rosie said to me is, if you support the mum, if you support the mum, if you look after the mum, then the mum can look after the children. And that always stuck with me, because obviously, but basically I've been sectioned twice. So 7 years ago when I had my first child, who has cerebral palsy as well, which is disabled. So I had postpartum psychosis, so after the birth, I got sectioned because I had psychosis, which is quite a severe mental health issue. It's quite intense, like you hear things, see things. I'm aware that it's your brain playing tricks on you, it's the chemical imbalance and you get medicated out of it, but it feels real when you're in it. And then about 4 years later I got psychosis again, and got sectioned again. So in this time, obviously I'm a mum, and then unfortunately I did end up in a domestic violence relationship, and I've got a 2-year-old as well now. So when Home Start joined, I was just finalising getting out the domestic violence, because my neighbour, who notified social services and the police and everybody, and he did get arrested and he got done for assault by beating. yeah, so they joined just at the end and they got to hear the meeting. I remember with social services, everybody was in the meeting. They got to hear what I'd gone through and everything, and my strange relationship with my mum, because obviously when I'm sectioned, my mum has to look after my children. So obviously, because they don't really understand mental health, they think it's selfish. So obviously, I've got a really strange relationship with my family, and they actually like walked out on me 6 weeks ago, and I didn't contact, but thanks to Terry Ann, I don't feel by myself. Like, I feel like this is my mum. So, I'm like, this is my foster mum. She adopted me, yeah. So obviously, I've had no contact with them. They still have contact with my children though. My dad does the crossover. But yeah, what else was I going to say as well? Yeah, so I've got diagnosed now with bipolar, depression and anxiety. But I'm on really good medication, and in the last like 5 weeks especially, now that I didn't realise how much my family was actually affecting my mental health by not understanding my mental health, and everybody, and not having to be in that relationship that I felt, because I felt so alone at the time. It's really like, I don't know, it's really like, in the last 5 weeks, isn't it, you've seen a massive change. Or like, if someone met you a year ago today, you'd think it's two different people. Yeah, I'm really happy now.
You're more confident in making your own decisions.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. When I asked Alice would she speak, she was a bit nervous, but I thought she's come such a long way, you know, with all her support. And she said to me yesterday, all I can say is this is the best thing Home Start has come into my life. That's all you know. Vicky, your turn. Vicky's very confident.
No pressure.
No pressure, she is.
You're fine.
My family and I have been supported by Home Start for a few years now. I came to Rosie as a single mum to Oscar, who's at the back. We've since then added Louis to our family. The help and support we've been given is nothing less than life-changing. Not only do they offer physical support in the way of a one-to-one volunteer who's always matched perfectly to the needs of your family, but there's also the support of family playgroups, days out, parties, pantomimes, Easter eggs, and more that I can't even remember. We've even been helped with food vouchers when we've been in need. We've been on day trips which, as someone who's on a restricted income and doesn't drive, wouldn't have been possible without Rosie arranging them for Home Start, as well as the weekly play groups and the summer catch-ups, plays in the park. We've made We've made lots of friends along the way who we wouldn't have met without Rosie and Home Start. At every event or session, we're always welcomed with conversation and a smile by volunteers and families alike. I'm never left out or feel judged if my boys aren't having a good day, like that, or if they're not on their best behaviour. In fact, quite the opposite. Only yesterday at the ASD group, I was praised on Oscar and told how well I'm doing, which is so needed because a lot of the time it feels like I'm not. When I first came to Rosie, my life was upside down. I didn't know how to cope day to day, and she never once made me feel afraid that I'd be judged. She welcomes her families with open arms and everyone feels equal. My eldest Oscar was going through a lot of physical health issues, which in turn were causing other issues in behaviour and how he handled himself. When his brother came along, our world became chaotic to say the least, and I was given an amazing volunteer, Felicity, who went out of her way to support me and the boys in any way she could. Rosie spent so long making sure that fit was just right, and Felicity, I thank you for all that you did for my family.
You're welcome.
I'm currently participating in an Understanding Autism group arranged by Rosie, which has been really well received by myself and the other families who have been there. We took part in a slow cooker course where myself and Oscar were given the slow cooker and the food every week, and we joined other families on a virtual cook-along course. We made beautiful food, great friends, and learned lifelong skills together. We were lucky enough to be chosen to receive funding last Christmas from John Lewis and Waitrose, who provided myself and my boys with the most amazing Christmas that I could have ever wished for. My boys also got the opportunity to go to their first ever pantomime, front row seats, and their faces are an image that I'll never forget. Rosie never gets the true appreciation that she deserves for what she does. I see it so many times when she arranges days out and doesn't get the thanks, or people turn up late. But she never gets upset or angry. She always welcomes them with a smile and a cheery remark. Rosie is the epitome of what Home Start is, and without her, you wouldn't have the amazing charity that you have. So I thank everyone at Home Start for all that you do for mine and other families. And I just want to add that there's one particular person I need to thank who has helped me more than anyone, and that's Debbie. I had one-to-one sessions with Debbie, and I was struggling an awful lot. And Debbie, without you, I don't think you realise I wouldn't be here now. I was ready to leave my boys and this world. And coming to see you each week, you got things out of me that I didn't even knew I needed to say. And I want you to know that you will always have my eternal gratitude, because you're the reason I'm still with my boys. So thank you.
The video you're going to see is of one of my families, Katie. When I first visited her, she didn't even lift her head, and she was in a very dark place. But we've got a brilliant volunteer who worked with her for a year, and she's really doing well and thriving now. So she couldn't be here today, and her volunteer Hazel is on holiday, so it's a real shame. But I phoned her last week and said, would she come? And she said she couldn't. So I said, would you write something? And then I said, actually, would you be able to video yourself? And she said, I can't do that, I wouldn't be able to do that. And I said, no worries, if you write it, I'll read it out. And then she sent me this over the weekend, and she said, it's just a draft. And I phoned her and I said, that's perfect.
My name's Katie, and when I was initially asked to record something, I was a little bit nervous, didn't think it was something I'd be able to do, but I thought about it and thought about how important it was that you actually got to see a face for someone who has benefited from Home Start, and so I've put my nerves aside and I'm now speaking to you all. So I just want to tell you a little bit about my story, really. I was referred to Home Start by my health visitor at the birth of my 4th child. I wasn't too sure initially about whether I needed Home Start or whether it was something that was really for me, but my health visitor persuaded me, and I was then referred and met Paula, who immediately put me at ease and explained the service to me and how much benefit it could provide. And I was then shortly after introduced to my volunteer, who was Hazel. Hazel immediately, I realised, was kind and empathic and listened to me and was just exactly what I did need, even when I didn't realise it, maybe in the beginning. The support that comes from Home Start really is invaluable. It made such a difference to me after the birth of my son. Whether it was a listening ear or a text message, it was just somebody there to listen to me, to give me that time when I was on maternity leave and at home with young children. Hazel would take me for coffees, offer to attend appointments with me, and most recently was the biggest help possible when I moved, as she was prepared to pack boxes, wrap ornaments and lift things for me. I honestly don't know how I would have managed moving without the help of Home Start. So I really am very grateful for having accessed the service and for the support I've received. Not only have I been fortunate enough to have a volunteer, I've also attended playgroups, activity time in the park, and have been so fortunate to receive a hamper at Christmas and vouchers for food as well, which really have, over the holidays in particular, made a massive difference to the lifestyle of me and my children. Home Start is really an amazing service for families in this community. The volunteers give their time and are just amazing. The coffees that I've had have been such a relief when being on your own can be really quite lonely. Having just someone to listen to you and talk to you has definitely lifted me in the lighter, or in the darker days, I should say. In particular, even if she didn't know something, she would find out, or she would find someone that did know, and was always just there to be supportive. I have now finished with my volunteer, but I'm fortunate enough to be still continuing to attend playgroups with my son. And again, meeting other mums, having that social time in a positive environment is just so invaluable. My children have thrived because of the support of Home Start. So I just wanted to take a moment really to talk about that really, and let everybody know how important it is, and how people like me are grateful and have benefited, and I thank you for that. Thank you. Bye.
We've just got a little present for each of the volunteers who came and spoke. If you'd like to come up and just accept this from us. Angela, Terry Ann and Rebecca. And can I just say, although what Vicky has said, I couldn't do my job without all you volunteers. You know, you're what drives it as well. So I really appreciate it. Angela, thank you.
No, I don't need a microphone. No, I'm very used to projecting my voice. Not quite sure a room this size actually. It's really so lovely to see all of you here today, and a very warm welcome from me to Swanley, because this is the first time that we've had the Home Start AGM in Swanley. In part because Home Start is my charity of the year. So I'm fundraising for Home Start this year. So it seems only right and proper that I should welcome you all to Swanley today. But also because there are a growing number of families in Swanley who are receiving help from Home Start. Our community has changed dramatically over the past few years, I'd say probably the last 4 years actually, and we've got more families moving into Swanley now than we've ever had before, which is absolutely lovely. It's great that we've actually got young people, young families moving in, because Swanley was always seen as sort of a bit of an oldie town. So it is lovely to have your families here. And I know that the volunteers hopefully are going to come forward to support our families. There's a growing number of families in Swanley receiving help from Home Start. I'd like to actually pay a huge thanks to Debbie and to Rosie. Rosie I've known for many, many years, and Debbie I've got to know over the years as well. What an amazing team they are. I mean, just such a small team, really. You've got that little team there, and what they actually do is quite astounding, to be perfectly honest. Running all those volunteers, the training sessions, coordinating everything, and nothing ever seems to be too much trouble for them, as I know some of you families will have found out. You know, if you go to them with an issue, they'll know someone who can help you. They're really good at signposting, as you volunteers are too. So it was lovely to hear from the families being supported. There's nothing better than actually hearing those life stories. It makes what Home Start does very, very real, and long may the funding continue. All I would say is, you know, if you can spread the word to others, to any contacts that you might have, to keep the momentum going, to keep that money coming in, because without the funding, the training can't happen to train those volunteers, and that is absolutely crucial to drive Home Start forward with the number of families that are needing that support now. Swanley Rugby Club holds Home Start very dear to its heart. It has been the charity right from the get-go when Swanley Rugby Club first was formed 5 years ago. And I know that Wendy's in the audience today, Wendy Aitkenhead, who does an awful lot during the Christmas period, the Give a Gift at Christmas that we organise. So that will be going on this year as well. Probably it'll be a bit more this year because Home Start is my charity, so I'll be working very closely with the Rugby Club on that this Christmas. So thank you very much, as I say, thank you all for coming. It's lovely. I shall carry on and talk to some of you over tea and coffee and a bite to eat now. But thank you all very much for all the work that you do, trustees as well as the team down at Dartford. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the kind words, the Worshipful Mayor. I do hope everybody can join us for tea and coffee and a bite to eat. Yeah? And I'd like to reiterate again, I can't really add to what Leslie said because she's taken the words out of my mouth. Thank you to Debbie for all her service to Home Start, Paula, Rosie, for the smooth running, for everything you do. It is so much appreciated. So thank you. Can I have a round of applause? I'm just going to play a quick few slides of the events over the summer, past year, just while they're going to get the food out. Thank you.